a glowing orb near to one of Denmark's major airports. If there's a way to attempt to destabilise countries within NATO, this is surely it. An unauthorised drone in its airspace, Denmark hasn't pointed the finger at anyone, but says everything points to it being carried out by a professional actor.
I want to make it very clear. The goal of this kind of hybrid attack is to create fear. It is to create discord, and it is to make us afraid. And without drawing any conclusions regarding the evening and night's events in Denmark, we can state that sabotage and cyber attacks and other forms of hybrid attacks have become an all too recurring part of European reality.
Aalbord is the major airport in the north of Denmark. It was forced to shut down for hours after drone sightings nearby. Drone activity was also reported in airports further south. The drone said to have been launched locally, possibly by sea, although no confirmation as to who or how. It's the second security incident in Nordic countries this week. This was Oslo's airport in Norway, shut down after a drone flew through its no-fly zone on Monday. And in Copenhagen too, causing chaos and disruption for some 20,000 people. It appears this has become a pattern. Europe has been on high alert for weeks, and just days ago, 3 Russian fighter jets entered Estonian airspace for 12 minutes. It was deemed reckless. Russia claimed they were neutral waters and accused Estonia of ratcheting up tensions. French and Polish planes also among those bolstering defence after Russian drones were flown into Polish airspace earlier this month. Romania too, reporting drone sightings. Russia said that repeat suggestions of airspace violations were unfounded. But if Denmark isn't pointing the finger, Germany is.
It comes as no surprise. Even if my colleagues in Denmark are unable to talk about where these drones come from, the suspicion is obvious. This is part of Vladimir Putin's strategy. Without us being able to say anything concrete in this case, as I said, but it is part of what we experience every day. We're not at war, but we are also no longer at complete peace.
Hybrid attacks attempt to blur the lines between war and peace. Through military or non-military methods, foreign actors attempt to target political institutions and influence public opinion, undermining security. They've been used for years, with recent attacks ramping up the speed, the scale, the intensity. NATO's line would usually be prepare, deter, defend. But as airports work to get back to normal this week, Denmark said it hadn't shot down drones for the safety of the population. How to defend against them, trickier now, for this is the new reality we live in.
Well, Ed Arnold is a senior research fellow for European security within the International Security Department at RUSI. Thanks so much for joining us. How does Denmark even begin to get to the bottom of proving where these drones came from?
I mean, there'll be a thorough investigation, which will probably involve multiple agencies, so intelligence agencies, the military intelligence, to try and uncover sort of who was behind it, both in terms of the initial intent and the planning, but also the execution, because those two things may be separate. And we have seen on similar sort of disruptive incidents within Europe that there's usually quite a chain of sort of nefarious actors behind these types of incursions.
These attacks look to be systematic. We saw Denmark took the decision not to take the drones down. Separately, we saw Russian fighter jets in Estonian airspace last week, and they weren't taken down either. How are these decisions being taken within NATO countries, particularly with drones where it's not known if they have a military capacity or not on the face of it?
No, and I think that's why there's initial caution, but also it's a bit of a governance issue when you're specifically looking at airports. Airports are generally privately owned. There's also a lot of private infrastructure on there. And generally speaking, sort of the policy element would be with the local Department of Transport. So actually the governance issue around this is really quite complicated. And we saw this back in December 2018. In Gatwick just before Christmas, and effectively that was the same thing, that a lot of agencies come to try and help and support, but actually it's one of a governance issue about the decisions to take down a drone or sort of how to respond.
Do these kinds of hybrid attacks work no matter who's behind it? Can they expect some kind of success in destabilising NATO countries like this?
I think there's an element of destabilization here and also disruption. I mean, closing an airport even for a few hours, I mean, the economic disruption is also very high. And also it's causing disruption to, in this case, NATO societies. And I think the issue around these incidents is, you know, whoever is behind them learns from them and improves their capacity to do this in the future if it is seen as a successful operation.
There is a drone wall meeting going ahead tomorrow, which will bring together 7 member states of the eastern part of the alliance territory. Is it likely to achieve enough in the timescale needed, though?
Well, I think the issue of sort of drone protection, specifically from a Russian military capability, is very different to what we've seen over Copenhagen and other airports in recent days and weeks. And there probably has to be a bit of policy separation between the two. But ultimately, this is about deterrence, and it's also about European political will to actually deal with these incidents when they occur.
Ed Arnold from RUSI, thank you very much.